Welcome back to How We Love. Our guest today is a man for all seasons. He is playwright and director Vincent Marano, and also a former high school vice principal. And there is nothing in the theater that he cannot do. And I say this, having worked with him on several plays that I produced that he directed and also stage managed. He is awesomely accomplished, and we also want to find out about his love affairs. So let's have him speak for himself. Hi, Vinny. We're so glad you could be here with us.
Thank you, Robin. I'm glad to be here as well.
So you have an amazing career. You've got a play on, as a matter of fact, this Sunday, which in New York City in Manhattan, and you have a movie script that's winning awards. But before we get into all that, let's go back to your early life, to how you started, and then we'll go into your first marriage, okay?
Sure.
So you grew up, I believe your parents were immigrants, am I correct?
Yeah, my parents were immigrants from Italy, and so was all my brothers and sisters. I'm the last of eight, and I refer to myself affectionately as an anchor baby.
8 children.
Yes,
Did
no
your
TV at the time, so
did your mom speak English?
my mother or father never spoke English besides curse words.
And you became a master of words as a playwright. That's incredible. And so, what just briefly, what was it like growing up in a family of 8? Did you have enough food to eat? I mean, that's a lot of people.
We always had enough food to eat. A lot of my siblings stayed in the house until they got married. My mother was a whiz at saving money. Somehow, with every child who got married, she managed to put together thousands of dollars in a gift to get them onto the right footing.
What did your father do? Was your father a big?
My father in Italy was a truck driver and a former member of the fascist party, and was actually in an internment camp, a POW camp during World War II. And when he came to the United States, he couldn't find work as a truck driver because he couldn't speak English. So he followed his father's profession, which in Italy or in the old time would be called a blacksmith. And here he was an iron worker. And he was an iron worker in the United States for about 17 years.
Was that a union job?
It was a union job, but unfortunately, because of his age, he came to the United States fairly in his 40s. He was laid off and was not able to get a pension. As a matter of fact, I had the task of sitting with my father, translating with his union rep, telling my father that the union wouldn't give him a pension, but they would pay for his funeral. It wasn't a pleasant conversation, let me tell you.
It's so crazy. I mean, I can't, it's so far afield from anything that I can relate to. But let me just ask you something. So with all that, how did your mom raise 8 kids and then give them wedding gifts? What I don't understand.
Well, there used to be a thing, they still have it, called a Christmas club, and she saved all her pennies. We didn't have any extravagances. If my mom had the same coat for 25 years, pretty much. And even today, my sister talks about how this coat that she got at Alexander's looks like it's brand new. And so she really did without for most of the time. We all worked. I've been working since I was, I guess, 10 or 11. A shoe shine boy, working in barbershops. Then later on, I worked in discount stores like the old John's Bargain store.
Okay, all right. Let's move on from there. Let's move on to you go to college, right?
Fordham University, yes.
Okay. Were you the first in your family?
No. First in my family was my brother who lives in California.
Okay, so you go to university and you teach, and then what did you teach, by the way?
I taught social studies and English.
Okay, and then that's interesting. You taught English and neither one of your parents could speak English.
True.
How did you feel about that they didn't speak English?
My father liked to say that it was a good thing he didn't speak English because he would be dead or in jail. And my mother agreed.
Why? Because he had such a temper?
He did. He had a very bad temper.
Oh.
And my family lived in a very insular Italian American community in the Bronx. So they actually didn't need to speak English. As a fact,
You were embarrassed by the fact that they didn't speak English?
uh, not really, because it was presented as fact. And I saw so many older people in my neighborhood doing exactly the same thing. What I was most embarrassed about was my inability to speak Italian better. My parents, my father particularly, did not care for my pronunciation and my mistaken words, and I found out later on that was part of a little bit of a learning issue I had overall with language.
Really?
Yeah,
You're a master of words.
being a master of words doesn't make you a master of grammar necessarily, and doesn't make you a great speller.
Well, a great speller is something else. I can't spell either, so I get that.
And you're a master of conversation, so.
Yes, no, I'm pretty good. I can hold my own, but I can't spell. So, let me ask you something. So how did your first love affair was with whom?
My first major love affair was with a person I went to school with. Up until then, I had just very brief relationships, some sexual, some not. And the first real relationship,
When did you lose your virginity?
oh, fairly late. I was about 18, 19.
And how did that come about?
Met what would be one of the many Irish girls that would come into my life, and she thought I was adorable. And we had an afternoon where I cooked for her badly, but she looked beyond it, and we went out for a bit. We really didn't. She was much more experienced than I was, and so my first time was pretty much a failure initially. But she was very patient.
You mean you couldn't get it up?
In a way, in a manner of speaking, for a young guy, either you can't get it up or you're done before you start. So,
Ah, okay.
it's both of those things at once. Let's put it to you this way: my experience in talking with my friends was all their first times were lousy.
Really?
Yeah, nobody was. They have mythologized about how we do things, but nobody was good. I mean, one friend talked about it, and his first time was with the woman he was married to, and if she rolled her eyes once, she rolled it 4 times. It was like
But she married him. So he
she
got better.
married him.
So he must have gotten better.
Yeah, there he got him. I guess. Sometimes
Anyway,
you don't want to know.
we all know that there's a huge difference between just plain old intercourse and making love.
Completely.
Love I think that comes with sophistication.
Yeah, and it comes with sophistication and I think time and like a patience to understand what your partner needs.
Yeah, yeah, a man has to learn that it's about a woman. But at any rate, so so let's go back past your first sexual experience to the first serious relationship.
Yeah.
And
That was a friend of mine from college. She had experiences, and we were very good friends. And then one night we were at a bar, and we went back, and we had an explosive sexual experience.
wow.
It was one of the top 5, definitely in my life. Went on all night. It was like right out of a really good uh, Thomas Hardy novel or a porn, and it was just went crazy. And I immediately thought I was in love and that was going to go on, but she kind of wanted to slow down and backed off. So we didn't have sex again for a year after that. And when we did, it was after my father passed away, and she just was felt drawn to me, and we launched into a 3-year relationship We got engaged. We moved in together.
And all that time, was the sex still so intense?
The sex was intense for a good part of it, and then things came up that were uncomfortable.
Like what?
You find out about your partner's history sometimes, and some of it is not pretty. And sometimes I think people make allowances or excuses for what they've endured by claiming it's what they like to do. And that's my opinion.
You're being too abstract.
What I mean is, she wanted a much more volatile, violent kind of sexual experience at times. And it was very difficult for me to do that because, given how I experienced my father and violence in my own household, I was not into, per se,
Woo!
a BDSM at the time.
What does that mean?
Bondage, domination, sadomasochism.
Oh my, wow. Okay. No. Okay. All right. So that is what you wanted?
Yeah, some of the time it was, and it became an issue. And
She
my opinion was,
want to be hurt, Vinny?
yeah, yeah, that and that's not uncommon. I've been with women throughout my life where some want to be choked a little bit, some want to be slapped a little bit. Yeah.
That pretty. So you attract that kind of a gal?
No, I'm attracted to women who are strong, who are independent, who know what they want, who have this patina of
Darling,
street.
I'm strong and independent, and I would never want anybody to slap me or choke me, please.
I didn't say all of them were, Robin, but some were. Some were. And then I would go the opposite and go with somebody who's a little bit more quieter. And that once in a while, in a blue moon, much more rarely, they would want to be confined. Not terribly, but mild bondage.
What do you mean confined?
They would want to be tied up a little bit. Like to a bed.
Like
Sometimes they would like scenarios.
Our movie, Vinny, tie me up, tie me down.
Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily like harsh, but just a little bit of restraint to feel like it's a scenario of being unwilling to walk the sex.
Okay. Well, it's making me think I must have missed something. Anyhow, is that the gal you married?
The first one had a history, and she wasn't her preference at all. So our relationship wasn't predicated on that, though she did have a history of multiple partners.
Wait, you're getting me confused. So the gal that you went with that was into S&M and all that stuff and bondage
Yeah.
for 3 years, you did not marry that girl.
No, she broke up with me.
Okay. You didn't beat her enough, I guess. Okay.
Well, no, it was a little more complex, but you can, I guess you could say that.
Let's move on from there. So then you met your next wife, right? Your first wife.
My first wife, yeah.
And what was she like?
She has a huge personality, just pops in public, a lot of fun. I met her at a bar. We got together. It seemed like it was going to be very loosey-goosey, not really a big relationship. And then it became very intense very quickly. I was initially caught off guard, and then I had backed away because I had been in a previous relationship where I became too, how can I say, codependent. And yeah. And so I felt like it was going in that direction. But she had a lot of stuff going on in her life. And part of me felt like I shouldn't walk away from this, that she needed me. And that really overcame my doubts about the health of our relationship.
So you got very attached to her.
Oh, very attached. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that something sounds like that was something that was pretty easy for you?
Yeah, it was. I think I've always struggled with the idea that I'm not easy to love.
Because you are not easy to love.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm easy to like, but I'm not easy to love.
That's
the difference.
Okay. Well, At any rate, so you, you, you fell in love with this gal.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you married her.
Yes. Big
And
ceremony,
big wedding.
big wedding, lots of friends. My former fiance was there. She was part of the group of friends from my college. Um, it was a very fun, dynamic wedding.
I would imagine so. Very Italian, right?
Italian and Jewish, because my first wife was Jewish.
Really?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were married 3 times.
What do you mean?
Well, we were living together downtown, and she had serious dental issues. So I needed to get her on my health plan. So, unbeknownst to neither of our families, we got married 8 months before the date we had told them
Oh,
we
you
were
had
going
a
to get married.
civil wedding.
Yeah, civil wedding downtown.
So then
And
when you
the
had
I
a
and
civil
the I,
wedding, and then you had a Jewish wedding, and then you had a Christian wedding.
no, I'll tell you no, because she wasn't practicing at the time, and since I wasn't marrying in a church, we ended up with a civil wedding. Uh, Very ironically, though, Robert, I should tell you, yesterday was the 32nd anniversary of what would have been our wedding. And my ex-wife, as she does every year, texted me saying, "Happy anniversary to the best ex-husband ever."
Really?
Anyway, yeah, she
Wow.
does it every year.
Wow.
Uh, and so the second wedding, I forgot the marriage certificate, so the judge couldn't sign it with the witnesses. So the very next day, we got married on a Saturday night. On Sunday, we drove to the judge's house with 2 of my best friends, and we had a third ceremony, and then we got married
It's
again.
very impressive that your ex-wife still, it's because you're such a good guy, Vinny. So you stayed friends.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. I don't believe in
That's not
not staying
common.
friends.
No, you're such a good guy. That's not common. That is not common at all. All right. So you married, and then what happened?
We married. She worked. She's in the the exercise field. I was when I was with her, I was in the best shape of my life at that time. Um, Running half marathons and things. I was in great shape, and we had a very active life. And then we got a house in Queens, and the inevitable thing came up about having children. She was 6 years younger than me. That proved to be a problem because I cannot have children.
Why can't you
We
have children?
It was a birth defect that was not resolved in a timely fashion. I had gone through puberty for I had done the necessary surgery to correct it, and by then, the damage to my fertility was irreparable. You know.
Did you know that when you married her?
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I said it would be. I said it would be very doubtful that I would get married. Even at that time, I think I lied to myself a little bit. I didn't want to say it, though I told many girlfriends about the problem. And before I met my wife, I dated 3 women who I really liked, and we all liked each other. We dated for a little bit, but once I told them, like around the third or fourth date,
That you were
as
infertile.
I was infertile, it didn't last. It petered out, so to speak.
So, but when you told this, so what exactly was your wife really apprised of the fact that you were infertile?
Yes, and she didn't. She said initially she didn't even know if she wanted children.
I
But
see.
once we got into our second or third year of marriage, it became evident that she did, that it was something that she felt was missing. And this, I began to notice that my wife, who I thought was this independent, brilliant woman, and I still believe she is this independent, brilliant woman, but she wanted the white picket fence kind of life that she never had as a child. And she came from a family that was broken, a lot of issues, and she wanted something, a normalcy that she didn't have, I think. And we tried. I did.
What about adopting children? I mean,
I was up for adopt.
hold on, Minnie.
Sure.
Okay, when you're in love, I know that experience. It's so profound. You
Yes.
do anything in the world to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
So what about adopting children?
Well, I was for adopting children. She was not. Her experience was that and this is something I think came from being a stepchild and things that she learned and heard and felt, that she didn't want other people's mistakes.
That's crazy.
You know, when you hear that and that's burned into you, that you're something wrong with you because you're not part of that original family unit, it stays with you, I guess.
Whatever. So
Not justifying it, just saying that's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
observed.
yeah. But how did you? I mean, you were still in love with her.
I was, but I began to notice this change. That she wanted to be taken care of, which was something she hadn't said before. I mean, it's not like I wasn't going to take care of her, but it was an idea that I wanted us to have this kind of cosmopolitan life going out there and doing things. And when I conceded that we could adopt children and she rejected, it was kind of like, what are we talking about now? There's only a certain kind of life. So we can have together. And I was starting to feel rejected. And then I started really taking an inventory of what I was getting out of the marriage. Was it working?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were being rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when did it break up? And how did it break up?
We had a major fight over money and financing. Uh, there were bills that had to be paid and things of that nature. Uh, she spent a lot because she wanted certain things and wanted to go on vacation, things like that. And again, I was coming from a much more frugal background. I mean, I didn't mind going out and doing things. And I did spend on going to theater because that was my thing. And one of the big things that broke us up is that since we weren't having children, I said, I want to do this thing about producing my own theater. I had been directing and started writing.
You were doing that back then?
Yeah. Yeah. And I had the opportunity to take over the Chelsea Playhouse in Manhattan on 22nd Street, and I did. And I ran it for
I did not know that. But
yeah.
the people that are listening in, that's a pretty prominent theater. Go ahead.
And it was like and so I took it over, and that became like a big part of my life. And I think she felt ignored to a degree, and it became a bone of contention that all this money I was putting into the theater, which wasn't that much comparatively speaking, I was managing to break even most of the years that I ran it. And it wasn't until 9/11 that it went under, because a number of theaters went under.
Did you run it as a playhouse or a movie theater?
I ran as a playhouse. It was
Wow.
it was a 78 seat house with a balcony level. All kinds of shows were there. Upright Citizens Brigade took it over for a while. I mean, I had a lot of good people in there. I had a lot of friends in the theater community and in the gay burlesque community, and I used to have shows there. It was really a nice. It was becoming kind of a hub, and uh, this became like an issue, and
You wanted two very different things out of life.
it became very apparent. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And when you broke up, were you heartbroken?
Initially, I was. I felt like this is what was meant to be. I was always meant to be alone. A lot of my own personal, as they say, mishigash came back, and really, I beat myself up for a while. And then, about 4 months into our separation, I began to realize, while I missed her, I didn't miss being with her, if that makes sense. I didn't miss the arguments, the barbs. When we got together, it was much easier. So it became very evident within 6 months that we were destined to be friends. The other thing that came up was she almost started dating other people immediately, and I struggled with that. I had all the horrific kind of online dating experiences you can imagine. It was horrible, Robin. Especially in the early days, like Match.com, I called it Muck.com because that's what it was.
You called it what?
Muck.com. It was terrible. It was terrible. And so I I wasn't jealous. And when I realized that I wasn't jealous of her going on with other men, the only thing I was jealous of is I wasn't getting laid and I wasn't meeting people. Then I realized it was over. And
Yeah.
she came to me about a few months after that, almost about a year, and she wanted to get back together, and I said, and I kind of like laughed. I said, "Are you kidding, right?"
Yeah, it was over. No,
It was over. And
it was over.
I said, actually, what I did say to her was, I said, if in the future we do get back together, it's going to be completely different because we'll be completely different people. But right now, no.
No.
And the odd thing about it is, I met my current wife, who I call my forever wife, and we got engaged, and she got engaged with another man and got married, and we went to her wedding. So
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Who got engaged?
my first wife got engaged.
Oh, and you have went to her wedding with your current wife.
Yeah,
I,
after our divorce was settled, she could get married. She had been engaged, and then she could get
yeah,
married.
but you stayed friends.
Yeah.
You do know, as I said before, you do know that is very unusual.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you one beautiful little thing about my ex-wife that I think you should know. So we went to her wedding, and it was very odd. And her father pulls me aside. She says, it's not too late. You two can still get back together. I laughed at him. I said, are you kidding? And he was only half joking. And about 8 months later, I was getting married. And I invited her and her new husband to our wedding. And she turned down. And she was like one of the few people who turned down an invitation. I said, what do you mean? And she said, Vinny, your wife this is her first time getting married. I'm not going to be there and spoil it for her.
Oh, very sweet.
And I'm sorry, and I know you want me, but this is the right thing.
She's
She
right.
deserves to be the bride
Yes.
and nobody else.
Yes, she was right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you see why I liked her. She was, at her core, a beautiful, wonderful soul.
Yeah, but that's not what
She is.
because she was great in bed. Don't give me that. Come on. Okay. All right. So how did you meet Michelle?
I had met her. She was a friend of.
And how long had you been on your own when you met her?
Actually, I'm going to say re-met her because I had met her early on when I was with my first fiance at various parties among friends from college. And then we didn't see each other for almost 2 decades. About 15 years, I think. So she was the friend of one of my good friend's wives, or who became his ex-wife, because that's what was in the ether then, I guess. Everybody was getting divorced at some point.
It's not, it's constant. The divorce rate is so high.
Well, there was a whole group of people who got married who didn't get divorced, and all of a sudden, this one friend got divorced, and I got divorced. It just became like a cascade. Anyway, what happened was they wanted to go to this little Italy section of the Bronx where I'm from, and they wanted to eat Italian food. And of course, me being Italian, I had to be the host. So my wife was there with the friend, and we ended up sitting next to each other. And around the table was my friend, his ex-wife, her current boyfriend, and they were all crazy. I mean, it was just, we were looking at them saying, what is wrong with these people? And so my current wife and I bonded over our friends' idiocies, I guess. Lunacy.
Yeah.
And we started dating, and things seemed very easy with her. But I was very reluctant, having just got out of a marriage a few years before.
That's what I wanted to know. So how long were you on your own? Because you grew up in a family of 8. So you're used to being in a family.
Yeah, but I was always an outsider, Robin. I always felt as an outsider, even in my own family. Because
but that's why you're an artist.
Well, it's the language, it's the sense of my interests were different.
Vinny, I've never met a creative person who did not feel like an outsider.
No. Yeah, I suppose it's very hard to create when you're in the middle of something, when you're always worried about what other people think.
Exactly.
So, we talked about it. It was very upsetting for her because she was used to dating. My wife had a much less dating experience
You
than I.
told your current one, Michelle.
My wife, yeah,
Yeah.
she had a much. She wasn't as. She wasn't a whore like me. How's that sound? A proud whore. Let's put it proud whore. And she was upset by me saying we have to take it slow. Maybe we should see other people. But I went to Argentina that summer that we started dating to see an uncle I had never seen and cousins I had never seen. And all I could think about was her and wanting to share this amazing city of Buenos Aires and everything I was seeing with her. And
You knew you were in love.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you came back,
Yeah, as a matter of fact, just to bookend that, with my first wife, I knew I was in love because during our early part of our relationship, I went to Japan, and again, I had the same thing where I wanted to get back to her as fast as possible. So
yeah.
it seems I need to be physically removed to really have perspective.
To know that you're in love, huh?
I guess so. I guess so.
Well, you're in the theater, so you need a little bit of drama.
Oh yes.
So anyhow, so you come back from the trip, and
And we started dating in earnest. She lived in Jersey City at the time,
is she
and that,
Italian?
pardon me.
Isn't Anne Michelle Italian?
No, she's Irish, Finnish, and Scottish.
Uh-huh.
She's about as white as they come,
Mm-hmm.
and so I met her family met my family. My
Is she
family
from a big
immediately,
family like yours of eight?
they were very religious Irish Catholic. Actually, they're more Catholic than my family was.
No, but how big a family was she from?
Oh, family of four.
Four.
But she had a multitude of cousins, a lot of cousins. It was a big Irish community there. She had a whole community, a whole family there. And it felt very comfortable. It felt I have had this, and family was originally from South Philly, and they lived outside Philly in a suburb called Upper Darby. And I've always had an affinity for Philadelphia because I have friends who live there, and I visited the city regularly, and it just felt very comfortable. And so I just and my first fiance was from Philadelphia as well,
Yeah,
ironically.
but you know what, Vinny? You say that you're an outsider, but even as an outsider, because I know you're a community person. You're someone who's always involved with lots of people.
Yes, I am. I because I believe that in community is where things continue. That I could write the great American play tomorrow, but if I don't have a theater group to workshop it, if I don't have um, a set of actors that I can have in my mind while I write, and I learned that, Robin, that I write better and I finish plays because I know so many actors and I borrow from them, their who they are, their loves, their lives, everything to create what I want to create.
But
So
your whole life has been very much engaged with people. I mean, you grew up in a family of eight, then you go on to teach, and then you're in the theater. So your whole life has really been involved with lots and lots and lots of people.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a dichotomy. I go through these things where I need to be around people and then I need to be alone. It's very,
Well, you need to be willing to write,
yeah.
of course.
Oh, definitely. But more than that, I need to, like in the play I'm writing now, I've gone for long walks because there's so much complexity, and I'm dealing with issues of faith and how faith is twisted and manipulated.
What do you mean?
Well, the play I'm writing now is deals with events that happened during World War II, prior to World War II, specifically Kristallnacht, and current events that deal with the kind of Christian right movement that warps what we believe and who we believe in to such a degree that we suspect our neighbor when we should be embracing our neighbor.
Any are too abstract.
Well, I mean, I just think that your faith is either for people or not. And if you do anything that excludes people in your faith,
In your faith.
Yeah, any faith.
But you're not talking about belief in God.
Yeah, belief in God, but any God, whatever you believe in, whether it's whatever, if the part of your belief is the destruction of another group, it doesn't work.
I see.
It's not real. It's not really faith. It's not a religion in my way. Definitely not a Judeo-Christian faith by any standard.
So the play is about what? These two conflicting ideas?
This conflict of faith and how people use it, how people use faith and to get their way in power, and how they're doing,
and in so doing, diminish another group,
diminish another group, and diminish themselves.
Yeah, I see. All right, so let's go back to let's go back. So you fall in love with Michelle, you get married, and the marriage is there's no problem with the fact that you can't have children.
No, because we got married in our 40s, and I think I and Michelle at that point had decided not against it, and she, not that she had perimenopause, but it would have been difficult. And again, I don't think it was. I did float the idea very early on if she wanted to do in vitro fertilization, and it wasn't as important. It was more important for us to build the family that we had instead of creating another one.
You mean the family between the two of you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So how long have you been married?
This November will be 18 years.
Yeah. And it's a great marriage.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything you wanted.
Yes. I mean, there's things that you want and there's things that you need. We always want more than what we need.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, would I like more consistent acrobatic sex? Yes, I would. But
acrobatics?
Absolutely, acrobatics. But then I have to also confront the fact that I'm 65 years old. And, I'm more, I don't want to create a death wish for myself or my wife. And the fact is, when someone's with you through all, because we've nursed each other through very recent illnesses, and we've buried people close to her parents, a brother and sister on my part, friends, family. It makes a difference. It reprioritizes what love actually looks like. It rejiggers it. It kind of like you say, like, it doesn't have to be this, but it must be that.
Can you talk more specifically and not in such abstract terms?
It doesn't have to be about the physical dynamics being perfect all the time, but it does have to be about respect.
In plain English, it doesn't have to always be about electric sex.
Yes, absolutely not. But it does have to be about respect, affection, regular affection, patience, and listening. Those seem to be.
Yeah, well, that's what forms deep attachment.
Yeah.
So so the marriage has evolved so that there's a profound attachment between you.
Yeah. I've definitely evolved. I think I'm definitely a better person at this than I ever was when I was younger, which makes sense.
Do you think the marriage has changed you to be a better person in general?
Oh, yeah.
How?
I'm more patient. I'm less judgmental.
I've known you for such a long time. I have never seen you as a judgmental person. Because
you and I have not been in a situation where we're in conflict. Most of our judgments come up in romance, in our relationships.
That's true.
That's where the judgments really rear their ugly head. Not in we're sitting in a room. I can when I was in school, I could manage hundreds and hundreds of kids and their emotions and what they needed. I can manage actors very easily. That's easy because I have no skin in the game. Not really. Because when I leave that rehearsal room, when I leave that classroom or that school, I have my own life. But when I go home and I don't listen and I don't, uh, exert a little patience and deference to somebody else who has issues and is struggling and wants to be heard, then there's a problem. And luckily, I learned how to be better at that with her.
Interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So let's move on from your happy marriage to your, to your.
I'm not going to move on from my happy marriage. I'm going to stay
No,
right there.
in terms of what we're going to talk about, in terms of your other great love, which is the theater.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what I know you have a play on this Sunday, which I'm looking forward to. And you have a movie script that's winning awards, but just you tell me how you, in whatever form you want to tell me about it.
Well,
Starting early.
Well, early on, I had this feeling, I was always entertaining my family. So that always seemed to indicate that I had to do something. I initially wanted to be an actor, and I was trained early on and found it very frustrating because I had a very thick Bronx accent for a number of years. Still comes out when I'm angry or tired, and I wasn't getting work. I was getting extra work as a gangster, this and that, but I just didn't like it, and so I pivoted towards directing first, and that happened. And I became involved in a number of groups off Broadway down in indie theater. Terry Schreiber just passed away recently, among others, and Ellen Stewart at La Mama. And
People don't know these are very renowned people in the off-Broadway community.
yeah, and I did a lot there. I learned a lot by doing it, and I got a master's degree, and because I wanted to write, I felt, the funny thing, my friend says to me, you always talked about wanting to do film because I have like an encyclopedic knowledge of film, and I do love film, but I found that the being on movie sets was torture. I I my ADD kicked in, and I said, "Could I ever do this?" and I found that theater is much more dynamic.
Yes.
Especially theater, and I love theater, like the living theater. There was so much at the time that was breaking out that I was just overwhelmed with the opportunity to express ideas in all kinds of ways. And so,
how did you know that you could write plays?
I wrote my first play when I was a young teacher, and it became a play that did very well at the New York International Fringe Festival years ago. But it took 20 years. A lot of my plays gestate for a while, and I found that I could write dialogue, and I think I now later in life in the second career I'm trying to sell myself as a dialogue writer because I write good dialogue. I have a good ear, and I can write dialogue for a lot of different people. One of the benefits of being an assistant principal for so long, I can write for a young audience. I'm open to them, and to the rhythms and to the poetry that young people have in and of themselves.
What do you mean poetry that young people have?
The way people, the new slang and things that people do, it's fascinating to me. I don't bemoan it or look down on it. Saying,
give me examples.
Well, there's a whole group of terms like deek and dep and all kinds of things that people use in terms of their relationships, in terms of online personas and what they do, and how they express themselves. that people my age are, even younger than me might find like stupid.
Well,
Like
what
not,
kind of terms?
well, it's very hard because I wasn't prepared to talk about the linguistics of Gen Z, but they just I like the way people talk amongst themselves and what's important to them in their frame of reference. I've never lost that interest. So I feel like I can always write for different audiences.
So you're saying that there's an actual different vocabulary.
Oh, absolutely there is. And people sometimes are afraid that that would make their plays dated, but I don't think so. I mean, is Shakespeare's plays dated because of the language that he uses? No, they're not dated. You adapt, you listen. That's part of the theater. Part of the theater is walking into a space like none other and being in that space and being present. And being present means understanding how they speak and what they're trying to do and what they're at stake, what's their needs, what's their fears.
Were there any playwrights that influenced you?
Yeah. Luck. It's one of those things where, be careful if you meet your heroes. One of the playwrights I'm friendly with now is John Patrick Shanley. He was greatly influenced me. He proved to me he's a Bronx guy from Parkchester, and he wrote like Danny in the Deep Blue Sea, Italian American Reconciliation. He wrote about people who had a certain language, but were heroes. They were like as majestic as anything you would find in a Greek tragedy or comedy or Shakespeare. And that really inspired me to keep writing. It said I had actually a voice. Other people I adore is Tennessee Williams because of the poetry. I've always been attracted to that. I have a friend of mine who I admire quite a bit. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning writer named Stephen Addy Gurgis, who I did shows with back in the 90s in the Bronx.
Yeah, he's quite renowned.
Yeah. And what he does with language is amazing. Arthur Miller, of course, you can't be an American playwright and pretend that he doesn't influence you. And finally, I'd have to say, really, Sam Shepard and John Guare. John Guare, who I met as a young writer, and Sam Shepard, whose work pushes boundaries of imagery and personality and ideas that are amazing.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're getting too intellectual. People.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay. So what was the early themes that fascinated you in the plays that you were going to write? And please talk in plain English, not in abstract
Okay.
way.
The people trying to fall in love when they have so much baggage in their life, and how in one scene they find an opening that will move them forward. I wrote a play once, ironically, that was based on the end of my first marriage, called Notes to Self. And the whole first scene is about a couple that meet online, and they have this rat-a-tat-tat where it's obviously going wrong. And the guy says a few things about the woman in the piece, how compelling she is, what he's drawn to. And whatever he says, those few moments, those few bits of words means that they have enough breath to go on. Now, in the play, the couple fails because they're both damaged and they're both trying to fix themselves. And you can't fix yourself through other people successfully. And
I think I've done very well that way.
What?
I've done well that way.
Yeah, if somebody's willing to be a willing partner, but it's hard. And my ex-wife, when she saw it,
everybody's damaged in one way or another. I mean,
completely. Everybody is damaged, but I'll give you my philosophy of life, and that is, if you want to be happy, Robin, you have to find the right crazy.
That is true. That is true.
We all are nuts, and we just have to make sure the nuts of the person we're with dovetails with our nuts.
That's true.
We're crazy.
Your craziness matches the other person's craziness.
It has to match the other person's craziness.
I'm not even sure that's correct, because I'm thinking about when I married my husband, my first husband that died, I was nutty as they come at that time. I was an actress and I was really crazy. And he was so grounded.
And he was crazy for loving you because you weren't.
Well, he
So
loved me.
he's loving somebody who is the opposite of him.
Yeah.
And that works for him because you know why? Because part of him wanted to be you.
No.
I think he admired you. I think
That's
he
not.
found you
That's
brilliant.
psychobabble. No. It just was chemistry. I don't know. But anyhow, moving on from me back to you. Let me ask you something. With all that you've written, so what do you think really about love? Romantic love.
Um, it has to be cared for like an orchid. You can't leave it to chance. You can't leave it unattended. Uh, I might because physical love fades with age, but romantic
How
love.
long do you think physical love, sexual love lasts? Intense sexual love. 3 years, 4 years, 10 years? How long do you
Oh
think?
no, it could last much longer than that. It could ebb and flow. It changes with if you switch partners, so you could capture it again. A
Me,
thing about
partners.
physical love is the
We're talking
newness.
about with the same partner.
Pardon me?
What do you mean switch partners? We're talking about with the same partner.
I'm with the same. Well, what I mean is you're saying 5 years. I mean, you could be with the same partner, and I still think you can have it. I think you just have to find an interest. And I think one of the things about physical love is your level of maturity. If you're both children at heart, for the most part, and I want to be better at it, be a little mature, you can keep that going a little longer because
Romantic love.
there's a certain selfishness and goofiness that goes along with physical love. But the more you become older in mind, not body, in mind, then the physical love fades that much faster.
And then it's replaced by a deep emotional connection.
Yeah, emotional connection, a friendship,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
contentment.
Yeah. A contentment.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a unique emotion, contentment.
it very is, very
Yeah.
much is.
Yeah. That's not in the common lexicon of the American public.
No, but to be content is also a work in progress for most people.
Yeah. So what would you say the themes of your plays are? In plain English, Vinny.
uh, fulfilling your dreams, no matter how minor. Finding love, even if it's going to break your heart.
So you
Saving,
so you think
saving somebody.
hold on. So you think finding love, even if it's going to break your heart, is worth it?
Absolutely.
You do, huh?
Oh, completely. It's completely. It's sometimes it's the only reason to fall in love.
What do you mean?
You don't want to be dead from the chest down. You
No, but
don't want you don't want to not have passion in your life. And with passion comes heartbreak. It's unavoidable
why is it unavoidable?
because it's not sustainable. Because people feel crowded by passion. People feel weakened by passion. So at some point, people say, "I can't do this because I'm losing myself. I'm losing my authority. I'm losing my autonomy," and they break. But you need that passion. You need that passion to feel alive.
Hmm.
You know?
So it's worth any price.
Yeah. As Thoreau said, the mass of men live lives of quiet desperation.
Well, that certainly is not a life that you have led. That's for sure. Anyhow, we're going to have to say goodbye. And It's been wonderful, and I will be watching your play this Sunday.
Thank you.
And just before we say goodbye, just quickly, the movie script. You said before that you didn't want to write for the movies, but now you've written a movie script and it's winning awards.
Yeah. It's about two gay men who had a brief but passionate relationship as young men, broke up. One stayed in the closet, one lived his life out and proud, and they find each other at a long-term care facility by chance.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
In a long-term care facility.
Yep.
So there's no sexuality anymore.
We don't know yet, but we do know what we want to know is there's still love.
There's love. Yeah,
And that's what the play is about. Can the love still exist even after everything that they've given up in their lives?
Wow. I can't wait to see it. Okay, thank you, Vincent Marano,
Thank you, Robin.
a man for all seasons. It's been an honor to have you on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, my dear.
Bye.
Bye.